So, good morning. My name is Jace Clayton. And for the past dozen years, I've been performing as a DJ in many different countries and many, many different contexts. From doing things like DJing in a band with Norah Jones, to performing for very little money in squatted venues across Bolivia, to collaborating with the Barcelona Symphony Orchestra. And this is a typical setup. And one of the things that was really central to that experience is an engagement for how sound creates social meaning. And at the same time, I'm also very aware of how so much culture is passing into the digital at this moment. And so I'm very interested in what is lost when that happens and how technology can shape a sense of possibility, a sense of what's possible. And so what you see on the screen here is kind of the next slide is a reaction to that. So, for example, since time immemorial, people have been making music and building instruments all over the world. But for the past 20 years, as music software is being made, 95% of it is being made in US and Germany. And all that software defaults to a fairly thin sliver of what music can and should be. And so this is a project that I did last year called Sufi Plugins. And what it is, it's a suite of free music-making software built around non-Western conceptions of sound. So I wanted to take software and encode my values in it, different values, alternative values and sonic possibilities. So this is a drum machine, a clapping drum machine, and the next slide. And this is it's a synthesizer. So it's a virtual keyboard, but it's hardwired to Arabic and North African scales with the quarter tones built into it. So you can play all sorts of amazing music on it, but you can't play Brahms, even if you wanted to. And as you can see, everything is clearly labeled in the... It simply happens to be labeled in the Berber Moroccan language of Tamazight, using a 2,000-year-old script called Neo-Tifinagh. And with all these plugins, they're made to engage the user. You can sculpt sound, you can create new sounds. In the next slide. And I really wanted a playful engagement. So one of the things built into it is whenever you take the cursor and mouse over a knob or a button or a fader, instead of saying something literal, a little tooltip that pops up like volume level or reverb amount, what emerges is things like you can see here. It's fragments of Sufi poetry taken from 13th century Persia on down to today. So in this one, how many nights must pass before this one expires? And so in the next video clip, this is just you'll see my hands playing an electronic keyboard, and you'll get to hear this one particular Sufi plugin sounding. So if we can roll that. And so while most of these plugins are for music, one of them is about silence. And this one is called Devotion. And so what happens is, 5 times a day during the Muslim call to prayer, it will lower the volume of your computer out of respect. But there are presets. And so the presets include agnostic, observant, fervent, apostate, devout. Atheism is not an option. And so we can go on to the next slide. So a lot of these ideas and some of the actual software code has flowed into my Creative Capital supported project, which is called Gabadu and the Moirai Index. And what this is a performance piece for 4 vocalists and the stock market to be staged on or near Wall Street out in public space. And the 4 singers, they all represent goddesses. So 3 are the Moirai, the Greek goddesses of fate. They spin the web of life, they measure it, they cut it. And the 4th one is Gabadu. And Gabadu is a dual-gendered West African fate deity. And the reason why Gabadu is so important is because this project, it doesn't merely look at Lower Manhattan in its contemporary context as a center for global finance, but it's taking the long view, looking back to when Lower Manhattan was a burial ground for Africans and Black Americans for much of the 17th and 18th century. And the way the performance is going to work is that being goddesses, they will be standing on the backs of men, arranged in a circle. Each singer will have a microphone like this and a speaker between them and the audience. And they'll be wearing beautiful costumes, of course. And each goddess will also have a stock portfolio, various character-appropriate stocks. And so throughout the course of the day, as their individual values go up and down, all that information will be then mapped onto data that will transform the sounds of their voice. So quite literally, it'll be a dramatization of the individual soulful voice and global slippery stock value. I'd like to play you a clip of one of these voices, so solo voice in electronics. And so with this piece, the score is fixed, the libretto is written, but due to market fluctuations each day, each performance will sound radically different. And so imagine that on a busy sidewalk at 4 p.m. in Manhattan. Okay. And so the software is written, the music is being composed. Right now, my main obstacle is actually doing this. So I'm looking in public space down there. So I'm looking for someone who can help me navigate the thicket of permits and regulations required to do public work in one of the most secured and surveilled places in the country. In addition, I am looking for four goddesses, so women with powerful singing voices. Ruby's volunteered. Powerful singing voices, incredible presence. So please get in touch. And last but not least, this is about value in circulation. So while it's going to premiere in Manhattan in spring of 2015, I would like to tour it around at resonant sites. So at sites where there's a layer on top of sort of creative market bubbling and then deep historical roots going down. So before the NYPD come for me, I'd like to thank you for listening. And